Are you worried about keeping your aquarium cool in the warm, hot summertime? Especially the one day of the year in the UK where the sun comes out and 10 minutes later, British summertime has finished. It can actually be a problem to keep your aquarium cool, especially if you have marine tanks with corals, very sensitive species. Even some fish don't like it getting too warm. Well, this could be the answer for you. We've got the hygger Aquarium cool-in fan. So if we open the box up here, we have the application of a single fan. If you've got multiple tanks, you can actually get the 3 fan unit, which I've got here, and control them all from this controller unit. So very handy, and again, this doesn't even need to be used on aquariums. You could use this for many different applications. Now, of course, there are different ways of using these fans. You don't just have to use them on an aquarium. I'm actually going to be setting them up like this. You can see I've attached them to the underside of my shed railing here. I'm going to use it as a little bit of an ad hoc air conditioning system in this fish house because it's very warm in here. There's no airflow. I did install a fan over there, but it doesn't do anything. But with 3 of them, I can get a nice little bit of air circulation going in this fish house, keep me a little bit cooler while I work in here. And I can actually feel the difference already. They're on full tilt, and although it is a small output, one's facing that way, and then the other 2 are sucking in and blowing that way. So we're getting a little bit of a air circulation in here, which is always nice on a warm day. So inside of here, we've got 1, 2. This is a UK model with a 3-pin, but in a different country you'd get the relevant plug. And then we have our controller unit. So this one, as I've mentioned, is for the triple. However, you don't have to run it as a triple because the triple is an optional extra little piece. It will run off this single plug if you want to. On the controller, we've got our speeds and we've got our times. You can see it's all explained here. Normally with the time, it's basically whatever time of day you press the time button, and whatever you set it for, it will do that many hours, even half an hour, which is really unusual. So looking at the fans themselves, they're quite meaty. We've got a power socket there. We've also got a secondary on-off switch, which just gives you a little bit more customability. Say you've got this set up on 3 aquariums and one of them's actually not getting as warm as you think it would do, or you need to just turn this off to stop it overcooling. You can just manually turn them off without having to disrupt your settings. We've got our glass clamps here. I mean, I say glass, but of course they could clamp to anything. And in terms of width, that is about 1 centimetre, so this can go on pretty much any aquarium size. They also pivot as well, 180 degrees, although of course where the little screw is, it won't pivot completely that way, so let's call it 170 degrees of pivot. So here they are set up, and I thought we'll do a little bit of an experiment. So this tank here is a marine nano tank. It's heated completely from the room temperature of my shed, my fish house, right? And in here at the minute it's 27 degrees because the sun's out and it's a tin box. The tank temperature is 25.8 degrees C, which is actually a little bit warm. I'm using a digital TDS thermometers. These are pretty accurate. What I'm going to do is obviously put these fans on. Of course this looks a little bit messy. You probably wouldn't run 3 of these over a little 30-litre tank like that unless you were absolutely desperate, which you might be, who knows. I've got it set up here, excuse the mess, and we can see the cable length is actually quite massive. I'm not even at a stretch to reach, what, 3 or 4 foot across the room. So that does mean that in a fish house situation or multiple tank situation, there's plenty of scope for the cable. The controller, as I've mentioned before, is pretty nice and easy to use. We just turn it on, you can see the little button goes, and the fans start. We can see already the water movement. I'm going to turn it all the way up to the 5th speed. And I've got to say, that's quite a blast. In terms of noise, they sound like a computer fan going at full tilt, essentially. probably what they are, if I'm honest with you. In terms of feeling of wind, there's a lot of wind. A lot of air being blown through there. And what I'm going to do is set it for half an hour. And then when that turns off, in half an hour's time, we'll see how much the temperature has gone down. Remember, it was at 25.8 to start with. So it's been exactly half an hour. I know that because I set this for half an hour and it has now turned off. Let's see what the temperature is. Let's turn it back on. We're now at 25 degrees. Please focus. 25 degrees. So, what was we at? 25.8 half an hour ago. It's gone down to 25 exactly. And the room temperature, as I said, is 27. Clearly then, 3 fans would be useful if you were in a desperate situation and you had an aquarium which was really over temperature and you needed to bring it down as quick as possible. I think a singular fan would be fine for having it on a regular long time basis. It would just remove a lot of the temperature from evaporation, because obviously that's how it works. The more airflow, the more evaporation happens, the more of the temperature leaves from your aquarium. These 3 fans have removed almost a degree, not quite, but almost a degree of temperature from this aquarium in half an hour. That is incredibly impressive. And actually, that could be the difference between life or death when it comes to your aquarium inhabitants, couldn't it? On a really hot day, things can go wrong very, very quickly. Obviously, as temperature goes up, oxygen levels also deplete, so you'd want to reduce the temperature. You'd also want to maybe put an aerator in there as well to increase the oxygen. And that could save your entire aquarium. It could save all the livestock in your fish tank. So I'm very impressed. I didn't actually expect them to remove that much in such a short amount of time. They work really nicely. They're not hugely loud. I mean, you will hear them, but you know, if it's an emergency situation, then it doesn't really matter. So overall, I think an absolutely brilliant product.